are impacting on our daily lives in business here on the Central Coast. Good morning, Edgar.
Good morning, Peter.
Now, you've got information here that you've been waving under my nose while the Eagles were playing in regard to some releases by the Central Coast Hunter Valley Research Foundation.
Yes.
And you're not overly wrapped in it.
I'm not happy, no.
You're not happy?
I'm not
You're
happy.
not a happy egg this morning about this.
Well,
now, this is the research that is done, what, 2 or 3 times a year?
Yeah, twice a year.
Twice a year.
Twice
okay.
a year. The Central Coast Research Foundation does it. It's run by the Hunter Valley Research Foundation, of course.
Yep.
But nevertheless, they do it. They've been doing it for 15 years now. And last Friday morning, we got the economic update to show us or tell us what the economy was like on the Central Coast. Now, the worst feature is that our unemployment has gone back up. Our unemployment's running at 6.3%.
Yeah.
Now, that compares with the state average of 5.4 and 4.9 for the federal average.
A higher number here. I just wonder if perhaps the seasonal changes make a difference there in the report.
No, I'll tell you what it is, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We'll come back to it in a tick what it is, but our employment levels are now back down to 131,000. There's 131,000 residents employed.
Out of 300,000 who live here.
Out of 300,000 who live here. Mm-hmm. Now, that's back down to where it was about 6 years ago, according to them, but I have a feeling, I'm going to check these figures today, I have a feeling we're back down to where we were almost 10 years ago.
What, in terms of participation in the workforce?
No, well, that's participation rates are another interesting thing.
Oh.
That's even worse. Our petition rate...
So the figure you gave me were those who were actually employed.
Actually employed.
And were seeking it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, the participation rate is the number of people capable of working. Yeah. That's over 16. Capable of working and actually look against who are looking for work. And we're now up down to 52.9% people looking for work against the New South Wales average of 64.5.
Right.
You see. So
not looking for work, but actually engaged in work. You said the 52%. Oh, looking for work.
Looking for work and engaged in work.
Right,
if you're looking for work and you're engaged in work, that's the participation.
I've got you.
Right.
Okay.
Now, we're now back down to where we always were.
Well, the thing, though, is the demographics of the coast have always been inclined towards a very high retirement
well, that's not helping
proportion.
us. That's not helping us, Peter. But you see, what it's got down to now, and it showed, like we had some pretty good rates of employment last year when the building the education revolution was on.
Oh, yeah.
And, a lot of people employed, but of course that's all over now. And so we're back down. And that's not good for our economy.
So that's impacting on retail spending.
Oh, I was talking to a retail electrical appliance retailer on Saturday morning, and he said it's the worst he's ever seen it.
Right. Okay.
He said the best thing we're doing at the present moment is selling heaters and toasters.
I think the early winter snap has been a good thing for the appliance.
Well, it's just helping them along.
Yeah.
But, he said the days of people coming in and saying, I've got a new house and I've got to fill it up with furniture and appliances, he said, we'd hardly see anybody doing that.
Yes, is that right?
Now, that was what we used to keep them all going. And Peter, there's a lot of electrical appliance and furniture stores on the Central Coast. Yeah. If you go into them, they look like morgues. There's hardly anybody in there.
Time is like a good deal if you've got the money, I suppose.
Well, but they're not going to set that below cost, and that's where they are at the present moment.
Right, gotcha.
So the coast economy is not doing well, and this is the
do we normally go through a seasonal thing like this in the middle of the year? Is that something that you've seen before?
It goes up and down, but not as much as this.
Right.
It's gone back down again, and the problem is that we had this little tick up because of the government fund, the government spending, but the thing is on the Central Coast, we've now got businesses that. Most of our businesses are servicing the population, and the population across the board on the Central Coast it has a pretty small income, and they're feeling the effects of high electricity costs, high food costs, and all of that sort of thing. So they're not buying, Okay. And I was talking to a guy from one of the clubs, and he was saying they're not even coming into the clubs. So.
Even the gambling dollars dropped, or the entertainment dollars dropped.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's an issue we've really got to work on.
Now, how do we work on it? I mean, that's the situation we're faced with. Without some real stimulus for people to buy, or indeed to spend their money.
Yeah, you've got to get businesses there who can afford to employ people and want to employ people. You know, we've gone for 15 years now with bringing our home construction business down to the lowest level it's ever been. It is, you know, it's been like that for 5 years. You know, there's no new land. What new land there is, the councils want contributions which from the developers. The state government wants contributions from developers, which are uneconomic.
Yep.
So the developers who open up new land are saying, well, that's fine, we'll go to Queensland. And that's what they've done.
That's a statewide issue, though, I think. Not just initially...
No, is it? My word, it's a statewide issue, and that's why New South Wales is in trouble across the board.
Okay.
But we're in even more trouble. But, you know, there's that, and then, of course, there are businesses that want to do something. I was talking to a guy the other day. He wants to do a particular thing. He's got his DA in the Gosford Council, and I couldn't believe what he was telling me. You know, you'd think they'd say, well, yes, now what can we do to help you get this little thing built? And they're putting all sorts of obstacles in his way.
Oh, okay.
You know, and he'll only employ 3 people, but he might grow and employ 10.
Yeah, but that's always been an issue.
Yeah,
with,
so there you go.
Yeah.
So the councils are a big part of our problem, and now we're wearing it.
I wonder, though, with the new state government, if there's going to be some improvements in that kind of clearance rate for approvals, although really I think last week we were talking about this Part 3A thing that's been dismissed and put back to councils to make the decision on whether or not those large projects are going to be a goer or not.
Well, that's going to be an interesting point. I think they won't be a goer.
Yeah.
I think you're going to find that these councils are going to say, no, we don't want that development.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. You know, and depending on where you live, that could be, you know, good from your point of view. But let me tell you, if everybody starts saying that, well, there'll be nothing happening.
Well, it's a doom and gloom report today from Edgar Adams.
Well, yes, yeah. But anyway, there are some good businesses on the coast, Peter, doing great things.
Just the other thing I was going to mention